ready then? Okay. Great. Contention one is Lord of War in response to the casualties. The world is reducing military aid to the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen. USA is about to the warfare. Devon 1123. A number of countries issued arms to Saudi Arabia, the government secretary, the Denmark, Finland, some deals are on the sea, the UAE, how the value affected, says they increase value, side weapons, and pursuing increase 30% is happening from the USA. No country will say US 1% of the arms to Saudi China. Supposing the weapons signed every Russia less still responsible to the organization every Russia is not successful in. US support allegedly makes the war safer. However, the empirical record shows their unwavering support Greenland's atrocity. By the time your RFT is over, 60 many children will have been killed. Foreign policy to 9. Child abuse and projections really about to $22 million. Any humanitarian help and official name and names to the levels. Worst humanitarian when the health public journals actually you want to show them as every Yemen's of the world's holographic run history. Allocated and ISF and documented as well. Use of military claims to reduce surrounding and lose around and filming war influence of the US and different actors like US for restraints in. US support for authoritarian regime places millions at risk, prioritizing reducing material violence and reducing strategic chess. All of Milwaukee and Alfik 11-8. Study results article including the overrunning deficit of research in humanitarian Saudi Arabia and as talking about the aircraft in 1914 and tracks 37 surrounding the involving values military for bringing planes. We're still having aircraft in which is the tracks 37 surrounding US problems being used over even the religious salvation like massive in 2018 that dividing meaning and meaning Saudi Arabia suicide and justice and right in that was in review of the Allies of Islam disability and was also used on the Saudi Arabia balance of HR by the current to the organization of money threats and he's also towards Saudi money mentioned Yemen and still millions in morality defense advance we confront freedom and equality even in the face of annihilation while 37. Victor from Roman to delivery, right about the evidence equals access to necessity of more hard to make incredible moral values of human moral and equal to human values of every human lives equal to the human lives have no from the planet that human sees the normal values and incredible make these actions and moralities and material whether or not that human sees process of living behavior and actions that produce preventable harm must be previously rejected. Philly sign. Because savages and US did not know these massive returns of the government, those who became perjury and the citizens of the United States, this was starting to policy obligation and hidden for the case of the Eastern world, obligation and harms for the major total stopping and judgment, helping to the parts of the exact major moral atrocities, knowledge, material, harm that people of other countries between policy obligation makes serious attempts to become more than the atrocities present occurring there. Countries of Europe, the proximity to sea lane, of vital sea lanes makes escalation likely. Ships attached draw in foreign powers, 1 in Henderson 17. Youth governments usually not sure that the use of valuable tolerance and dense security to commerce where accidentally the holding when you say people access waters even temporarily can lead to such an increase in across the rebels that have which is not for keys and possible use these change the requirement high wrinkles that it runs from the with explosive formed and that such like you that the in conflict would escalate to a global nuclear war. So it's time up 18. Stephen Hershman should work against the that I'm not taking an uneven strong public that should be saying that the ability and those that actually they do not all knew what the GB release conflict duration plan. The United States ought not provide military intervention to authoritarian regimes involved in the Saudi Iraqi intervention in Yemen, contention to insolvency. That solves the Yemen conflict in a minute, Jones at all 19. Use of country doing how the development conflict between Saudi and Saudi and African American I'm still knowing it's when we never normally do anything about the supply weapon even we call the Saudi DC car or fix it arms or starting 6 on the same Saturday. But eventually the teaching about everything. Yeah, and the plan sends a signal to allies that US support must be earned, encouraging moderation to stabilize the region, oil prices, reduce terrorism and proliferation while 18. No states in the Middle East is the called the use of region management or good will purchase the operation maybe for use and running interest like much better. Let's go use the on and time to moderate behavior left yourself as letting you display as much as the discouragement fast as taking a separate we're going to encourage the more rotating figure that I'm sure to watch the what's talking about this word listening the rest of the sector that sports in military aid is an outdated model. It doesn't give the US influence or leverage. Walsh 1225. The US ability to Saudi Arabia and on premise would have used and MBS and French Yemen depending on visual flash received 48 hours time to publish within the second and target north. No strike was not running supposed to the British chain between the American visual strategy and the safe for French strike globally in. Ignore negative evidence. It's a product of the Kingdom Industrial Complex. Wahoo editorial board 1024. Some new American experts around the side of here many countries that heavily influence public Saudi Operation group most of them trying something like the real and lobby things on the think things except for the money spent university for ambassadors to figure out things financial firms and Congress just cut aid to Saudi Arabia thumbs every decide Harris 123. Congress reaches consensus that I've released age package for the 2019 complex contains good news for the US allies. They can pledge to have a review by studying the Kingdom of US military training provisions were all in the Jam House when you get that set button and over to foreign provisions are technical become law in the shutdown and straight so we cut Saudi Arabia off from I met and continued assistance prevents coalition exhaustion. They won't negotiate as long as we supply arms sales eliminate pressure for peace foreign policy routine. Arms training to begin like indefinite military intervention substantially relieving pressure on the coalition and the government of Yemen to reduce ceasefire. And the US is the only supplier Castle 1011. The Kingdom is to invest in use equipment will take that to transition from the US direction trying to take our industry produce and other high-tech equipment and down the time of the budget in Yemen and overwhelming empirics slow assets structural problems prevent aid effectiveness. Anything else is normative propaganda about what aid should do. Carlin 17. The biggest problem result is weighing on high rate of in Yemen. Near Turkey counter here filter probably the Yemen to if you're dealing with relevant many problems using how to tell use the US funds and come in for intended for counter to enrich his family and bolster his personal security deal. How officials admit they've lost track of millions of connectors to use weapons drop into the wrong hands. Ready? Yep. Okay. Ready? Yep. It's a
cuts aid, then why is the aft? If Congress just cut aid, why is the aft inherent? What?
I meant only.
Okay, only I meant?
Yeah.
So then I don't understand why every dissat is thumped. It seems like it would only thump politics dissat.
Well, so a few different things. First of all, most dissats rely on a perception link, but people just don't really realize it. It's like Saudi Arabia would backlash to anything that the US does where it cuts military aid. So unless you have a hyper-specific link that's like cutting all military aid would trigger it, then you would definitely get thumped with any dissat. Take the oil dissat, for example.
So
Your link actually relies on perception.
The card doesn't actually say that Congress cut aid. It just says that they reached a consensus on a Middle East aid package.
It got voted on. This was from 123. I just didn't have time to cut another card.
Okay. So then how much aid is the U.S. still giving to Saudi Arabia?
So a few different things. We don't know exactly the direct amount of money, so I can't pull out of the top of my head 1.3 million because aid is often a very controversial term, and so we don't know exactly how much goes into it. But we are still supplying bombs, is what our evidence says, and we are also doing things like we have intel that we provide Saudi Arabia on where they should target places, and we have somebody inside the Saudi Arabia war room who helps make decisions from the U.S.
Okay. Does the AF stop arms sales?
I will not spec beyond the plaintext.
Okay.
We don't provide military aid.
You don't provide military aid? I want to know what constitutes
the United States
aid.
ought not provide military aid to authoritarian regimes. I will not spec beyond the
So the majority of the way that we help out the Saudi coalition is through arms sales.
False.
So, okay, then where in the app does it say otherwise?
So first of all,
You just said you don't know how much money we give them.
Right, so there are a few different things. First of all, the foreign policy 10.9, what's it called? 10.9 card is talking about how we have things like air bombings, and that part of that is that we give refueling to airplanes. Also, another thing that we do
we cut refueling
right.
like a while.
That was an example of one type of military aid that we provided.
Okay.
But
so
another example is we provide bombs through those aircrafts. We also train people how to use our aircrafts, which is U.S. aircrafts. We also have intel.
And arms.
Wait, no, we also have intel. I said this earlier. We also have intel that we give Saudi Arabia, and we have somebody inside of their war room.
What percentage of that is? What percentage of our aid package is that stuff? That's not arms.
Wait, what do you mean? So, I just told you, military aid is a very weird term. So
you don't
I also
know
can't
what
tell you.
percentage
Wait,
of our.
You're also kind of conflating things. I can't tell you what percent because it's one person is inside the Saudi war room. What do you mean? It's not military aid is not just money. Okay. So I think you have a very narrow conception of what it means.
So I'm confused. If the AF does not defend stopping arms sales, and I don't understand where you're.
The AF may defend it. We just said that the AF defends military aid. If you want to get into a debate about what that means, go for it. We will not spec beyond the plain text.
Okay. What is the Kingdom Industrial Complex?
It's a way that Saudi Arabia has used money to influence things like think tanks, politics, and a bunch of different ways.
So can you give me an example of a think tank that has been influenced by the Kingdom Industrial Complex?
Our evidence doesn't cite one, but
okay, so
yeah,
there's no examples of the Kingdom Industrial Complex.
Well, so it's done a few different things, but let me just check that.
It's fine. I'll start.
Okay. Oh, sorry. The Middle East Institute and Center for Strategic and International Studies.
The Middle East.
And the Center for Strategic and International Studies have accepted millions in Saudi money, and so have universities. Okay.
I have 334 left. I'll sign it out.
Wait. What?
Or sorry, I have 234 left.
Okay.
It's 8 in that case.
234? Okay, great. I was gonna say
yeah, I'm
radically different times.
It was just a math mistake.
No worries, you're good. Sorry, how many?
8.
8? Mm-hmm. Okay.
No, sorry, 9.
Got it. Not off and then case. On cases are in order.
Just the contentions.
Okay.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat what was that? It's 9 and then case. On case, it's just gonna be like the advantage, the solvency. It'll just. I'm just gonna read from Is anyone not ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone not ready? Okay. Okay. Is anyone not ready? Interpretation. Military aid is defined as the soul of all 11. Military is will provide international military education, military system, program grants, more solar military grants, financing, countries, access, measure, exclusion, personal, commercial military arms, values, the absence, commercial military systems, that benefits, limits, or interpretation allows actually specifying for system limits or restoration A, iterative combat strategy, based on the best success, strategic operation, large production, engaging, consent, coercion, challenges, students, and babies, feedback, B, prep, nuance, regional price, exponent, large case results, solid base, pushes, argumentations, regional prep, rigorous testing, 2 is ground defense by non-military, all action, 4, negative, get deciding talents, like, and really problems in democracy, already actually critical in Turkey, different private, other they violated, either they violated or private actor feel the government doesn't sell, it doesn't sell countries on private actor feels voting issue feels document any other do the destroy ground, no politics, response to international relations, no big deal, which allows the absence of solvency, defense deficits, arbitration, solvency, vote on fairness, action, anything necessary in terms of better vote on education, tourism, tools on using media interpretation, reasonably arbitrary, region by judgment, and intervention, drop the barrier to future boost. Next up, counterplan the U.S. Congress should not repeal military aid to Saudi Arabia. Next up, economy strong, have a full number of trade talks, price 19. I'm mindful of number of jobs, treating to the inflation, may largely affect economic speaking markets, that will increase the cost of disaster treatment of the U.S. custom military aid Saudi Arabia retaliates by wrecking the economy, billions of dollars to lost your eyes, super inflates oil prices, revoked billions in infrastructure, Davies 10-15. Saudi will have a power play attention to the U.S. and policy of warning retaliation stages, the world's largest oil effort in writing to global economy, pushing by oil production, cut down prices, more than double out time, and have the cost of global force of the cost of all goods, and economic cost of global nuclear war, Thomas 15. If leaders fear and take the nation, plan GDP, urban economic change, all economy, interstate peace careers. Next up, counterplan the United States federal government should not provide military aid to the authoritarian regimes of the UAE coalition, the exception of military provided the kingdom of Jordan, the United States federal government should substantially increase military aid to the kingdom of Jordan. Is key to Middle East military and secure borders and extremes in the U.S. Department of State. 18. Jordan controls the Middle East, Jordan is not the U.S. and the FDP access Jordan close partner arrangement, 5 security challenges, 3 regions of recent search combating all extremism, Middle East peace, Jordan stability, security, fire to the U.S. U.S. military system, source for ability to secure support counter specific coalition operation defense orders, access to the provision of equipment, including small arms, aircraft, essential. Middle East instability goes nuclear. Russell 9. Stability is out of my all relation, communication, escalation, opportunities, conflict, nuclear weapons, and uprising, disaster, the plan, and military Jordan associated past 15. Jordan participating in the coalition. Next off, proliferation is decreasing U.S. military increase after 429. Not much U.S. has been the key. U.S. has been the key player in the cross section. Probably U.S. has been a primary responsible for proliferation. Won't do anything you need to do to enhance security robust. Inheritance of the plan causes nuclear proliferation. It gives the U.S. operational pressure recipients to abandon nuclear development. Cho 16 sorry, my computer froze. Cho 16 U.S. have using military force against the U.S. against repulsive and proliferating states to turn out to U.S. policy with nuclear leads to prolif escalates regional arbitraries proliferating response 2015. Judicial states extinction chronic 16. These are crisis after Carter crisis. Next off, counter the United States federal government should not provide military to the authoritarian regime to study coalition. These countries counter military provides to the U.S. United States federal government should substantially increase its counter military aid to the public aviation. I'm not reading the card. Next off, U.S. aid is sufficient to realize without the Asia Canada with military that rounds up 45. The United States government should use the 1.5 billion military to use the administration has been decided while you do not find 2019 for myself, 2016 for military for each of the second recipient of foreign military financing, the military for military by U.S. supports it, that fights civil inside of removing American military to halt the fight against IS, by Solomon for 27. I shifted you to the instructions, just about the leadership, and people for counter rights, and lost it, current training, ground force training, current American aviation training, not against the doctrine, the necessary, if he's out of the U.S. should reorient his military relations, build more international border cooperation, immediately to pressure different leadership changes, or U.S. plans are sufficient to curtail IS without them each of Canada overcome the terror threat. Sorry, I already wrote that. Removing American military, I already wrote that. I don't know why these cards are here so many times. ICE can't acquire new St. Gupta 16. The threat of military attack, continue to reveal highlights of zero. Couple of within the high centuries, come on, war to redeeming the front of your knowledge, how much you're higher up. The previously documented MCA, taking access to Robinson, terrorist, have used or using conventional tools, and you can probably have products, all these hard to pull your own cyber warfare, nuclear facility, or even and says every plutonium, nuclear bomb, solar, nuclear terror attack causes nuke war, extinction, how many? It's not nuclear terrorism, will likely to see the big attack, all the nuclear pressure, great destiny, or something that really be carried out in the trying to trick us to go from school, nuclear civil, be destroying, convention, nuclear ornament, or so we saving off from the face of the earth. I'm going to the case now. Russia failed in USA Code 12-7. There's nothing that the U.S. relationship commerce policy tells that the U.S. will be a geopolitical stars, keys down, and America's top 5 Americans, all the Americans, children, matters, starting by Germany, and Boston, Russia, among the 5 fronts. The plan makes violence in Yemen and much worse and distance that the U.S. surrenders, left controls and worse, targeting of civilians, Rogan 18. And U.S. participation on Union, what was they doing? Harvard, they could discern all the information about targeting, the accurate targeting information, the American intervention towards right, lose information, or else we selling the ludicrous and with ceases war, for make use of Russell use for all the Saudis, just appreciate the use of force American guns, all target, you information on trying to build the Saudis. We care a little about it, still killing 1,000 more civilians, they believe in mind with the war, because they only check on the noise, ceasefire, and these things, cutting off support for Saudi Arabia, long for Yemen, triggers on all attacks, but it's 12 states. A lot of U.S. for UAE, bombing the Saudi, or having the name, by the use and also the village of Indonesia. Around Saudi like Holy versus that's being spent international shipping give you or not being federal bomb on demonstrate. So power is dead, taking more modern stance in Saudi Arabia can't rise. 2016. America's military influence on the part of you talking about walking your refugees supporting waterboarding the use of the and getting up out of deals. Her American refugees triple and American arms sales are circumvented military firearms are held accountable and they have the full support of the government or one contrary to the plan gets circumvented. Military 12. The U.S. government is distribution of military aid. The country's value human rights legislation for military control to our military units 7% of executive power pushback against the legislative test limit presidential authority and the independent check on authority that keeps internal control certain sufficient for funding the units of human rights using restricting military against circumvented cause the shift in BMC's goal is 6. The utilization of financial structures and conquers likely this race is not ostensibly private has BMC's been making use of command and say United States been able to invest statutory provision on the military since our nation by regulating people's PMC. The third party reason that isn't specific to the scenarios we read you should prefer the probability of impacts, but also this is a scope argument which means that extinction. This is a scope argument which means that extinction is not the way the Watson card is. The Watson card, you don't talk about food inequality in your AFTI, and you don't talk about what food inequality in your AFTI stats. It should be weighed as preventable harm because there's a scenario that we can predict and we can prevent. The solvency page, the WAPO card is not specific to any of the sources we read in our AFTI. Even the examples they can list are very few or not from any of the observations you should not prefer. The counterplan answer the numbers that you say it's propaganda. You say evidence is propaganda, but you often give a reason why our specific evidence is propaganda. You were very bad on this question of concept. You should err highly on the side of negative evidence. You should disprove the specific probability scenarios of our JSAT, not just make general claims about why any negative arguments are bad.
Are you gonna mark doc? I didn't catch like half the marks you made.
I mean, I just didn't.
I know. I'm not asking. Yeah.
Okay, let me start.
What?
Tell me to start out.
Well, you marked like 7 cards, but didn't say where you marked them. So you just were like mark.
I marked 1 card. I didn't read like 7, but I'll send it.
Okay.
Okay, I sent the mark down.
Okay.
Let's start.
Let me download it.
It's all the stuff except for the Russia disad, and I marked 2 impact cards.
Yeah, I didn't catch those marks because they weren't set up. Okay. Are you ready? Status of everything.
Conditional.
Okay. Team military aid. What ground did you lose with arms sales?
So it's a question of, first of all, what you justify. So
Wait, I don't care about any other arguments. What ground did you lose?
No, so the argument that our shell makes is that by defending something that is not military aid but is military aid adjacent, you can skirt core negative disads and counterplans.
Like what?
Like the prolif disad.
Why?
Because you can say, because you get to define what constitutes military aid. So you could say...
Why can't the negative just get up and read a definition?
I mean... They can, and then it becomes a debate, but we were saying that our definition
okay,
is the
so
best.
you're just like, we want to avoid debate. Got it.
No.
Next off, the economy is strong now, but vulnerable to trade shocks. This is from 1.9. Saudi Arabia has already increased the price of oil, which is...
So it's not a question of increasing the price of oil. There are a couple internal ones here. First is that Saudi Arabia has threatened that if we impose sanctions on them, they are going to tank oil production.
If
so
we
it's not
impose
just a question.
sanctions?
Hold on. It's not just a question of like,
Wait, the
we're going to
1AC
make our oil
doesn't
$50.
impose sanctions. What's
The
the
1AC is a form of sanctions.
Why?
The sanctions that Saudi Arabia was talking about were stopping military aid. So that is what the 1AC does. But also, it's not just a question of like, oh, we're going to make our prices $50 a barrel now, but rather Saudi Arabia said that they would tank oil production such that it would increase the global price of oil, not just Saudi price of oil, to
tanking,
almost
what is it?
$400
How
a
low would they
barrel.
tank oil production?
They've said that they would tank it to zero, which would be incredibly low. It's also not a link that's reliant on people buying Saudi oil, but rather this is the law of supply and demand. So when there's less supply, the price and more demand, the price goes up exponentially, especially when Saudi Arabia is such a large oil
This
exporter.
CHO evidence, it talks about things like well, it says that we use military force, which is talking about military presence. The 1AC doesn't get rid of military presence, obviously. What's the link?
So I'm confused. The 1AC doesn't get rid of military presence. Withdraw troops from the region.
Right, but does that imply getting rid of military presence?
Yeah, I would say that's exactly what getting rid of military presence.
Well, so military presence is distinct from things like intervention.
In the 1AC cross-ex, I asked you what the aid did, and you had no idea what it was. So I think that we should hear to the definition that we have.
I don't know.
Definition that we have read in the 1AC.
I would strongly disagree that I didn't know what aid was. The next off, the Jordan, or I guess the Congress shouldn't repeal aid to Saudi Arabia. What does Congress do? What action does Congress take?
They just don't. They just don't pass the resolution that.
Why?
Why? Because it's a counterplan that we like. I'm confused. They just
okay.
don't do. They just don't pass a resolution that your evidence says that they will pass.
Prolif, who's going to get nuclear weapons?
Saudi Arabia, for example. Because they are no longer under the United States nuclear umbrella, which is why they aren't proliferating right now. They feel comfortable, like the United States will protect them, but obviously once the United States pulls out, they no longer feel comfortable and safe.
Why?
The U.S.
Why haven't they got nuclear weapons already?
They are under the U.S. nuclear umbrella.
Oh, okay, but because of the U.S. nuclear umbrella, they're not threatened by Iran?
So it's not a question of if they're threatened by Iran, but rather they feel like the U.S. Sort of acts as a good buffer that will protect them. And the reason that Iran is not scared.
That's fine, I'll take Brett. What's the order? Yeah, just give me a second to set up the dog. Okay. Is everyone ready? Everyone ready for the order?
1 second.
Okay, let me know when people are ready for the order.
Okay. Yeah. What's the order?
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. It'll go case, starting with an overview to the line by line, team military aid, the Congress counterplan.
I'm so sorry, I was totally not ready.
That's okay. Case, team military aid, the Congress counterplan, the Jordan pick, the Egypt pick, the Egyptian terror decide, the prolif decide, the econ decide. Okay. Did y'all flow Russia fill in on case or a different flow?
Case.
Okay, brilliant. I do too. Okay. Anyone not ready?
Sorry, case in what order? I'm sorry.
It'll just go overview, then line by line. Ready?
Yeah.
U.S. is the last holder for Saudi Arabia, UAE military aid, which is used to perpetrate killings of millions in Yemen. Every day at the top, Congress featured Middle East package deal, and end to the IMF program in Saudi Arabia. Thumbs because it's a question of perception for all of their links. That's it. Here's happening. They should have to explain why they don't like F outweighs one probability magnitude. A child life every 10 minutes. Telling this they have 20 million into humanitarian priorities. Current threats, the death toll is already higher than negative impacts of foreign policy. 2, ethics, food is basic human rights, which make preventing famine our highest world priority. Even if everyone dies, vote F on ethics. That's Watson. It's just conceded. 3rd, they've conceded our extinction. Use involvement will inevitably cause an accident. See which escalates the Middle East war. That's a cyber evidence. The line by line Russia film doesn't apply. Inoperability was conceded. That they don't have enough time. The worst targeting doesn't apply. There are no inhibitions now, and the U.S. doesn't have influence. The prolonged attack doesn't apply. We stop bombings, which means that more people will be able to survive. Yes, soft power. Yes, soft power points that they have economic ties, which they can also still maintain. But it is bad for them to be able to use bombings. The armies, this Miller evidence, this article about failure of specific law, not bans in general. These don't apply to the act, and the author concludes solvency is possible. We'll enter re-highlighting into evidence. The PMCs are even no film, make them provide evidence. PMCs can actually do the things U.S. does, like train pilots, mechanics, for F-15s, manufacture precision guided munitions, etc. Or others still think they solve arms sales. Not about the plan says military aid testifying process via the plan text and vacuum counter transportation, military aid and contractions, the publication 78, term military aid and conception terms, and the Sullivan evidence will enter re-highlighting. It concludes the affirmative that they allow for U.S. military aid and offense. 1, looks and allow for definition of the term military aid provides their interest arbitrary and unlimited because we divide any words on the topic. 2, role to Congress will mention military twice since the time of Saudi Arabia arms sales. Congress considers as aid non-regulatory excluding for the charge, and the 3, Afghan position where arms sales and protect the LG and specifically because behind the make the immediately easier. Defense 1, no ground loss, make them explain which is as applied military aid and arms sales. If they're correct, and significantly small, the name will have no ground and arms sales affects 50 billion, 450 billion versus life decay, which is easier to make. Also proves it even for actual human healthy abusive kind doesn't split the applicable need a defense when the one regime, there's no regime that gets arms sales with no military abuse military good is good enough. Otherwise, they count us in shopping education, the only will impact Jordan. Actually, sorry, the Congress plan. Doesn't tell the app, obviously don't give her military aid, 18 councils or military aid, 18 councils or roaching anything. Many of them never have to actually address the app, and they shouldn't be able to change the actor of the one you see, Jordan pick. Purpose of the counterplan, no different as Jordan is the authoritarian in the war. Con is voting issue reciprocity and out still multiple routes of balance the time of 20 or making class 1 and 2 in the 2 hour. So you have the time of not fun and arguments we made, key fairness and advocate, and look at position. Picks are voting issue, they artificially inflate the birth of bad by capturing the case, makes that possible for infinite of them, reject the team, key deterrent. Con picks are voting issue because they make the naked case out of a bunch of abusive positions, and all authoritarian regimes are necessary, all countries are bombarding cities and blocking ports, that's all impossible, and all fake fun, and these things are the 10 doesn't even know where the U.S. money is going, can't care to a repertoire, Sully has these funds intended for countering about the position of his family, and freedom and terrorists in other places. That means they can misappropriate Jordan, Egypt. Counterplans to the after their solvency advocate are voting issues, structurally excludes Afghan, but distorting their literature, and topic, kills topic, education, utopian fields, using hard about, and rescue church, impossible to determine competition with that. It has to be voting issue because they also switch arguments under debate. Permanently the counterplan, no definition of Egypt as authoritarian or war, cosplay that to Jordan. Permanently the counterplan, recent just make Egypt a totalitarian regime, not an authoritarian, cast on a political dissent project on Military Democracy 18, 16, the follow through the future project, the African, all the suggest that all CTA commissions over Egypt, and the danger to help 1 Egypt, terror. Solomon 427, the ongoing opportunity can see that current American future has no hands of capability to be eyes that they can on soldiers responsibility and really active role in aging counterterrorism. U.S. cause the people to come here, Al Qaeda and ISIS are getting flaws because we're providing weapons only risk of the link term because the strategy is successful now. That's foreign policy. Prolif. After the trigger link, the officers of the U.S. military president key to Saudi Arabia, which is distinct from U.S. military, is that U.S. civilian vulnerabilities, which is sufficient to not match on you can turn overactive U.S. causes Iranian regression and balance out in Prolif, which balance out, which makes Arabs say that it will cause Saudi Arabia to develop nukes as well. The plan is the sweet spot, so it's balances relations with Iran and moves instead of develop WMD. That's wall. No side Prolif, multiple officers block, we will both between that. You can trigger the U.S. economic change effective difference. It's incredibly difficult to material bombs. The goes around new cars, everything else. fairly well, 13 to the times, you don't decide that rush development, underwriting fragility, go within, cut the card. Ethos, the true author concludes that academic sanctions all past examples prove will enter this into evidence because their cards miscut. The econ decide. After that, once he the negative pantry that burst into flame, political fact, 1023, Trump said, second of recording for the from use company started to say the LMAX scale doesn't mean 110 billion is the limit, as long as the markets will be offered to the top and 35 billion discussions. Yeah, Jimmy Ford comes about ignoring the front of which aside between the actual payment series, starting at the payment every decade as of 1 year. All of this is based on perception. It says that Saudi Arabia, if they were to perceive the US as putting sanctions on them, would pull back, but our point is that we already pulled out of IMET, which should have triggered the DISAD, or the one you see wouldn't trigger the DISAD, or at the very least, maintaining economic ties should be able to solve.
Okay, can you send out a mark doc?
You didn't send me the cards that were deleted, so.
Okay, as long as you like press, wait, yes I did. I deleted the Russia cards.
Oh. Okay.
As long as it's clear, I don't really care as long as it's clear what was read and what wasn't.
No, I can just delete the stuff I didn't read, I guess. But I also just inserted stuff into evidence anyways. And that was inserted into evidence. Okay, sending.
I'll lay out with it.
Okay, sent. You're 234, right?
Hold on, let me. Okay. What were the answers to econ?
They were the ones in the doc, and then also, Square should have triggered the link. Your evidence is about perception, which means that either the app should trigger or it doesn't. Also, things like military ties aren't necessary. Your evidence is like economic ties should be sufficient.
You didn't make any RBI arguments on theory, right? What were the answers to the uniqueness counterplan?
The Congress one, agent counterplans are a voting issue, doesn't solve the app.
Why are agent counterplans a voting issue?
The neg gets to switch the actor, where we're not focusing on the actual plan itself as a debate, instead we're focusing on whether or not the actor does something.
Okay. What was the evidence ethics voter?
I didn't make an evidence of it.
Oh, okay. There's nothing new. The order is. The order is econ, the case. Sorry.
Okay, so
Let me get my place. It's econ, the case, econ, the case, the uniqueness counterplan, T-arms, the Jordan pick, the Egypt pick, terror, prolif. It's econ, the case, the uniqueness counterplan, the Congress counterplan, T-arms, the Jordan pick, the Egypt pick, terror, prolif.
Is there a doc?
No. Is anyone not ready? Oh, wait. Okay, anyone not ready?
The economy is looking up, unemployment is hitting all-time lows, inflation is slowing, but businesses are becoming pessimistic, increasing stock market volatility. Saudi Arabia has confirmed that the U.S. cuts off aid will slice oil production surging, oil prices to an all-time high, forcing the prices of all goods upwards and assessing the U.S. with the global economy to extreme decline. Saudi measures include destroying U.S. infrastructure, pulling billions of dollars in trade spread in the U.S. unable to recover from oil shock. Economic decline actually exacerbates economic tension that pushes states to war. The DSAT turns out ways the case. Economic decline results in mass atrocities like starvation and human rights violations propagated by abuse, driven to a paranoid about uprisings and conflict as a result of recession. They basically conceded the DSAT. Congress did not pass the plan that the app is talking about. The resolution that the app is talking about. Yeah, it says it in the unhighlighted part of their evidence. The uniqueness counterplan means that Congress does not. Means that Congress does not pass this plan, which means that we still have uniqueness. Which means we still have uniqueness for the DSAT. You say it's perceptual. You say it's perceptual link, but we did not pass this resolution. We have not imposed sanctions. We've just threatened it. And Congress said they might, and said that they might do, but they haven't done it yet. Which is why Saudi Arabia has not imposed, has not tanked oil production. The evidence that you read is very bad. It's about arms sales. It's not about tanking oil production, which is what the DSAT is about. Our evidence on this issue is very good. Saudi Arabia directly threatened that if we cut military aid, they would impose measures which do, yes, include stopping arms transfers, but largely include tanking oil production, such that oil would increase to over $400 a barrel, which is more than double the all-time high, which would drive up the cost of all goods globally, which means it's not just a question of U.S. recession or Saudi recession, but global recession, which means that the global recession means the DSAT also outweighs the case on scope, because recession causes conflict, causes global conflict. We've not really contested the impact here, so you should give us full the full weight on the internal link scenario, but also the DSAT turns the case because it exacerbates human rights abuses, but on a larger scale, because the effects are the ramifications are felt globally, not just in Saudi Arabia, and Yemen. The DSAT should also give the DSAT you should have a very high threshold for new 2-hour responses and extrapolation to the DSAT. The evidence they read is only about arms sales. It is not about oil. It's not about oil production. They've barely spent any time on this in the 1 hour. They should have allocated their time better. We don't have a 3-hour response. You should not give them any new 2-hour extrapolations. If you cannot draw a line from the 1 hour to 2 hour, just do not evaluate those arguments. The case. You've done a really bad job answering the Russia film. You say that we concede interoperability, but no, our evidence indicates that Russia is already copycatting weapons in the Saudi Arabia interoperability, but also the evidence that you extend on case about, or the argument that you extend on case about how we stop jet refueling proves that they don't need U.S. jets because Saudi Arabia can do it. Can do it on their own. It's not just a question of weapons, but also a question of just training and sending money. You've not answered why Russia doesn't do, which proves that the case is circumvented. You prove that the case is circumvented. You say this number doesn't apply to any of the DSATs because we're extending the uniqueness content. You also say you just extend it stops the bombing. There's no warrant for this. You said there's no warrant for this. You also extend Miller with no warrant. We're not going to go for the PMC stuff, but you should also apply all of our 1 and C arguments about why none of their framing cards, but why extinction scenarios are bad. Apply to the specific scholarship and the 1 and C, the uniqueness content. It doesn't matter if it solves. It doesn't matter if it solves. That's not the point. It's to give you generate uniqueness for our DSAT. Uniqueness for our DSAT. Agent our counter interpretations. Agent counterplans is that agent counterplans should be allowed if they are not included with processes. That it solves the entirety of your interpretation, because it means if they don't have any processes, that it solves the entirety of your interpretation, because it means there's no debate. There's still just debate over the ramifications of the plan. It's not debate over the actors who do, unless the app introduces it. You should cross by the reasonability argument. We're not going for TRs. We should classify the reasonability argument to all of the theory that they read in the 1 year. If we win sufficient defect, that should be sufficient for you to vote negative. Go to the Jordan pick. We'll concede the permit just to test the competition. We're not going for the counterplan. We're not going for the counterplan. We'll answer the theory arguments here. Our interpretation is one. Our interpretation that we can run is the conditionality. The negative may run 3 conditional counterplans. Solves your offense, defense. It solves your offense. They have to make solvency deficits. They have to make solvency deficits anyway. There's plenty of ground to answer them. There's plenty of ground to answer them with no one decides. Okay, sorry. It's best for info processing. The economy teaches us to think quickly and deal with overwhelming amounts of information, which is the most real world. Reducing cognitive overload facilitates deeper engagement with opposing arguments. Best to be proves. Also best for logical policy making. When the plan is better than a counterplan doesn't logically affirm, so the plan can still be worse than the status quo. It kills decision making since it forces argument choices is illogical whenever having the real world. Obviously, logical decision making is the most portable and applicable skill to realize and keep a critical thing. Learn about policy to abstract only once they become policymakers that everyone else makes decisions. Kills your ability to evaluate the winner of your own research requires determining if the round is decided the plan is desirable option based on logical conclusion arguments. One in the round evaluates since the judge's jurisdiction to vote for the best. Advocacy transaction considering all opportunity cost laws, absence survival from market ideas, ideological flexibility, console for staff to another position against all angles except just one. But the 2 hour collapses to ensure deep clash on one consistent set of issues. If we didn't collapse, the 2 hour would be very easy for you because we would undercover every single argument. Picks the counter interpretation. Debaters may read 2 kindly plan who's has confidence. It's most real policy requires defending the entire legal proving only one party plans going on proving your plans on all desirable policy action. It also best for critical thinking. Collapse debate to a single point of connection, lost in-depth discussion. The each of classifies. Classify these arguments each of it. We're not going and the condo picks up. We're not going for the terror. The terror will concede that there is the terror is not unique. We'll concede it's not unique, but they don't get a link term because the link term is perception. The evidence they read about the link term is just about why people turn to terrorist ideology, not why counterterrorism is ineffective at thwarting actual attacks. You should not allow any new 2 hour extrapolations of this either. They prolif. We'll concede that it's not unique and that the act doesn't trigger, which means they don't get access to any offense on the term. We're going to go back to the terror design really quickly. You should make them have a very high threshold for new extrapolations of the terror link term because this card is about terror ideology recruitment, not about thwarting counter-terror attacks successfully.
Okay. I had 238. Is anyone not ready?
Which condo?
Just the kind of bad. Regular. Is anyone not ready?
I'll just let it run.
You sure? Let me know. You good? Okay. Okay. Great. Our interpretation is that the negative does not get condo, even if it's bad, even if it's not bad in policy, it's specifically bad in LD because of massive neg times 2. They have zero answer to the fact that it is not reciprocal, where the one, but they have zero defense on the fact that the 2 and R can collapse to one issue, where the 1 AR is only 4 minutes, and it is impossible for us to be able to respond, but because they have such a great time advantage. Yes, there was a skew in this round. They get to kick literally 2 counterplans that I had arguments on that they didn't know that they didn't solve. And they were also counterplans that linked to other net benefits, which means that they should have had to go, for them, and they couldn't have gone for the econ dissat. The reason why I didn't cover the econ dissat as much is because I spent too much time on the Jordan and Egypt picks, which both had net benefits, only of their own, only internal net benefits, but neither of them had net benefits to the econ dissat, which is why I undercovered it, which means that it did affect my strategy in this round, which implicates real round defeats. The counter interpretation of 3 condo is arbitrary, and it's the reason why you should reject your counter interpretation. Then they can always say get 4 condo, 5 condo, 6 condo, and drive it up, which means that they have no access to any defense, because then they can essentially say infinite condo and just win on that, because there's no bright line for what is 3 versus none, 3 versus 1, which means that you should hold the line at no condo. The solvency deficits anyway doesn't apply. It's a question of the way that we distribute our time. You wouldn't have been able to read the Egypt and Jordan counterplan if they weren't conditional in the first place. The info processing argument, advocacy skills turns and outweighs. Shallow debates with no class don't teach us anything. Good skills for processing arguments, but don't teach us good skills for processing arguments. Just throwing things everywhere and see what sticks, i.e. which is what she did, that decided that I covered the least. And now their argument, which means that it takes out all their real world arguments. Also, we shouldn't just try and mimic policymakers debate. It's about inculcation of skills rather than mimicking everything policymakers do. That's not unique since we read 21-sentence plans instead of 200-page bills, but only my interposture is rigorous defense of beliefs against objection, which are the most important skills for policymaking. The logical policymaker cross-apply the arguments made above. Also, my interps also should rigorously defend their advocacy in this round, and if it isn't successful, change it in the next round. There is no reason shifting advocacies within this one round is net beneficial, which takes out this argument. The portable skills argument doesn't apply. We are never going to become logical policymakers, but we do have to just actually engage each other's argument, whereas in this round, she could go for the thing that was least undercovered and never engage what I actually have to say, which is why she read literally 9 off. Hold the line on this. The opportunity cost argument doesn't apply. We say that, yes, you can read it in a different round, but inside of this round, you shouldn't have read 2 condo picks, which didn't actually link to the econ dissat because it skewed my strategy and meant that you never had to engage with anything I did. The deep clash argument, we can still get deep clash, but you read 9 off, which proves that you didn't want to have deep clash in this debate, because if you did, then you wouldn't have tried to spread the 1AR thin so that I couldn't be able to engage in any of your arguments. Deep clash can only occur insofar as the 1AR is able to make arguments on the conditionality page in the first place. Now, Squirrel's a logical option is that it doesn't apply. All of my standards prove defending one accuracy is logical, prove one defending one accuracy is logical in this forum, which leads to better debates. And if you introduce a counterplan, then you should have to compare it to the app. Productive debates are more important than logic. There's no impact to their argument, so vote out. Since they make debate unproductive, there is no jurisdiction argument here. You can obviously vote for the affirmative because it is illogical for them to read 9 off insofar as the debate is a place where we try and garner advocacy skills, and they are distracting us from being able to garner advocacy skills. They have zero defense on any of our standards, which means that you automatically have to vote affirmative because we have offense and defense.